What is good, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So you guys normally know I review movies during every month, a different theme every month. But this month we're going to be talking about music. Now I will be tying in movies to it, but I thought it would be a nice mix-up. I thought about this during the end of November to bring in music. Now, while film is absolutely my favorite art form, music was my first introduction to art and creativity, and hip-hop was my first love of music. Now, while I have grown away from it because it's become an absolute dumpster fire of just marketing and talking about sex, drugs, and partying, I was lucky enough to grow up in the mid-90s, late 90s, early 2000s when hip-hop was at its absolute peak. Now, when I first got into hip-hop, you know, there's a lot of singles here and there. I remember the first hip-hop song I liked was Gangsta's Paradise from Coolio. But this album I'm going to be talking about today is High Art. And it was the first CD I listened to from beginning until end. I was about 12 or 13 years old, somewhere that I don't remember exactly. But I just remember being taken on this journey. And I had no idea about what good art or bad art was or creativity. I just liked music. Now, I've always liked storytelling. I like my mom telling me stories, my grandmother telling me stories, which ties into why I like movies. Because movies is visual storytelling. Now this, and I'm going to be referencing movies a lot during this because Nas actually references movies while in his lyrics. This is one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. It's my absolute favorite. So I'm going to be going through all the tracks, and I'm going to talk about what makes it great here in just a second. But to me, this is an audible movie, and it's almost structured like a movie. So I thought it would be a nice tie-in to start with. It just works out. It's my first love. So during this month, we're going to be going on like a chronological journey, for the most part, of my different favorite bands, artists, and I'm going to be focusing on every Tuesday we'll be doing an album review. So Nas was just, you know, up and coming rapper in the early 90s. He was on Large Professor's album, Main Source, which was Large Professor's band, their album Live at the Barbecue, and he crushed it on there, and his name was floating around the hip-hop community, and all the producers wanted to work for him, which ties in to what makes this album great. Now, firstly, it's the best lyrical album I've ever heard. When it comes to music, I love, of course, a good tune, a good melody, which this one has. We'll get into that momentarily. But I'm more lyrics. I'm very lyric oriented. I like to hear somebody's story, their personal journey, and that's what this absolutely is. And this is Nas's first album, and it is his best. Now, he's had a lot of other good ones. Not to say he's ever fallen off, but this is the raw material. I always like hearing an artist's first piece of material, whether it be a director, a musician, whatever. But so the lyrics and the storytelling, the poetry, you can tell Nas is well versed on music, on film, on history, and he's also well versed on writing, and his writing ability is at its absolute peak here. And so that's the foundation of it. It's like a good screenplay. It is the foundation of a good film. Now also, you need to have other things as well, and that's the producers. So all the some of the greatest producers of the time in the 90s were working with Nas on this album. Large Professor, Q-Tip, Pete Rock, and one of my favorites, one half of one of my favorite hip-hop groups of all time, Gangstar, DJ Premier, or Primo as I'll call him throughout this review. And even Nas brings in family to this. A couple of the quick things before we get into the tracks, just little things. It is an explicit album, and it does have cursing on it. However, unlike today's hip-hop, it's not contrived, it's not forced, they're not trying to do it for shock value. It is just how he talks and how he writes. He's just speaking from his own experiences. Also, there's only one guest artist on the whole album, and that's AZ. The album opens up with the sound of subway tracks. You hear subway tracks in the background, so you automatically know you're in New York. Now, playing in the background, Nas is talking with his friends. They're just, you know, just shooting it, you know what I mean? I'm gonna try to not curse as much as I can. I'll get away with the curse words as I can. And Live at the Barbecue is playing in the background. So it's a nice little touch, because that's what put him out there, and that's what put him on. And it's got a nice hip hop beat and a hip hop feel. It's like a prologue. It's a table setter, as I call it, when it comes to a movie. If anybody's ever seen The Exorcist, there's that opening scene in Iraq. Is it necessary? Not really. Let's get right to the movie. But no, you kind of need that table setter, because it's like about 30, 40 seconds, a minute, and it gets right into it. That's another great thing about this album. It's only 40 minutes long. Now, the first track on the album is New York State of Mind. Now, New York State of Mind is basically setting up the atmosphere for what you're going to be hearing throughout the entire album and the experience. He's explaining the life of crime, violence, drugs, having to be on your toes, having to be more than just, street smart to survive here. You have to be intelligent. The track is produced by Primo, DJ Premier. Now, throughout, I'm going to mention some of my favorite lyrics from every song to kind of sum up the song as best as I can, or else we would be here all day. Now, New York's my favorite verse off of, not verse, but lyric off of New York State of Mind. It drops deep as it does on my breath. I never sleep, because sleep is the cousin of death. Beyond the walls of intelligence, life is defined. I think of crime when I'm in a New York state of mind. So it just kind of gets everything. You need to be above a level of intelligence to survive here. It's the life of crime that he's in, and he's just to survive. And that's my listen. Like those lyrics. I mean, I can't wait to get to Ain't Hard to Tell. I'm gonna be going through all these. This is a great track. This is probably my third. It's hard to pick a favorite song off the album. The third track on the album is Life's a Bitch. This is produced by LES and Nas. LES was a local producer in Queensbridge, so it's a very local, intimate feeling, and also has the only guest starring on the album, which is that of AZ. Now, also, Nas's dad is on there, Aludara, and is playing a trumpet, I believe, throughout. I believe that's what the instrument he's playing. So I always thought that was a nice little personal touch to let his dad be on there, because how does he know he's ever going to put out anything else? And so it's a very personal feel. Now, Life's a Bitch is basically about, is this it? Is making money and then we're gonna be dead? That's it. Life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we get high, because you never know when you're gonna go. I'm gonna try to go off the top best I can with a lot of my favorite lyrics off of here. AZ opens up, visualizing my realism, my life in actuality. F, who's the baddest? A person's status depends on salary. It's sad, but that's what it is, and it actually translates to places outside of this dangerous neighborhood. My favorite verse from Nas is, I switched my motto. Instead of saying F tomorrow, that buck that bought a bottle could have struck the lotto. It's just like, it just flows so perfectly. It has this nice, elegant jazz beat over it. Love it. Life's a Bitch. Great third track on the album. So track 4 on the album is The World Is Yours. Again, a film reference right here, referencing Scarface, when Scarface is about to be taking over, about to be ascending. He sees the Goodyear blimp pass by with The World Is Yours on it. So again, I love all the film references in here. And there's another one right away at the beginning verse. The World Is Yours, basically he's just talking about his dreams of dreaming of something bigger, getting out of this world that he's in. And I love the opening line. I sip the Dom P watching Gandhi till I'm charged. Then writing in my book of rhymes all the words past the margin. Watching Gandhi till I'm charged. This isn't like somebody that is growing up in this world of danger and crime. You're not thinking he's sitting around watching Gandhi. I love that though. And of course the little Scarface reference in there as well. Whether cruising in a Sikh's cab or Montero Jeep, I can't call it. The beats make me falling asleep. I keep falling, but never falling 6 feet deep. I'm out for presidents to represent me. Whether cruising, I love that little, cruising in a Sikh's cab or Montero Jeep. Nice little New York reference. But yeah, he's just talking about ascending and just dreaming bigger than the life he's in. Great track. My second favorite track on them, and this is produced by Pete Rock, one of the greats of all time. So appropriately, the 5th track and literal middle track time-wise on the album is Halftime, produced by Large Professor. This was produced before the album, I believe. So to call it Halftime and then put it halfway through is so perfect. It's so apropos. I don't know if they even planned it that well. So anybody who's ever been to like a really long movie, there's an intermission in the beginning, this in the middle, and feels like an intermission. He's kind of showing off his lyrical skill here, being this was the first track recorded for him. So he's kind of like getting into, he's kind of showing off his ability, what he can do, and putting himself out there. So it's very much an intermission type track. It gives you time to kind of dwell on what you just heard, but like what you're going to go into. Because the second half of the album, because it's literally split in half, the vibe. The first vibe is more of that life of crime, more danger, and trying to move within that world. The mentality part of it with life's a bitch. Is this all there is? And then the world is yours. I'm going to ascend to something bigger. And then we get into halftime, halfway through, which is just him kind of showing off his ability, just kind of giving you a little breather to take in what you just heard, but also preparing you for what's to come. Couple quick lyrics that I wrote down that I really like off of this, very quick stuff. So I react never calmly on a hype track. So it's again, he's just referencing his ability and his skills with being an MC. So I react never calmly on a hype track. And another little part I like, just like to kind of show the passage of time with him as an artist. I used to watch Chips, now I load Glock clips. You know, it's just you sit in front of the TV watching Chips. Now he's in this life of crime. So the second side of the album, because like I said, it's literally split in half, but it's still progressing almost like a film and story. This is a little bit more emotional, a little bit reminiscing, and before you're leading up to that ultimate climax, which I still, like I said, I can't wait to talk about, because you know me with movies, I love the stick landing. Anyway, I digress, I'm sorry. So the sixth track on the album is Memory Lane, also produced by DJ Premier. I forgot Halftime was produced by Large Professor. So it's kind of looking back. He's kind of reminiscing on his life, his friends he's lost. And it's just a very like kind of an emotional type of song. Hey, I'm just looking back, because everybody does that, you know. Even when you're in that life, you have to be on your toes. He's looking back. Poetry, that's a part of me. It's a little quick line, not really much, but I like that because his album is absolute poetry. Poetry and storytelling can go hand in hand. They can be one of their own, but he's clearly a student of poetry. I reminisce on a park bench. My man was shot. I reminisce on a park bench. My man was shot for a sheep coat. So again, it's referencing a friend who had passed away, who was killed prematurely. And just imagine having to just go through that. I can't, like, I lost one friend due to violence, and that was heavy on me. I couldn't imagine losing more than one, and Nas references that throughout. And the last part of the track, I'm going to try to read my handwriting best I can. True to the game, as long as blood is blue in my veins, I pour my Heineken brew to my deceased crew on memory lane. Just you know, very reminiscent, very emotional, but also has a nice, elegant hip hop beat laid over. Like I said, a lot of jazz samples, nice old school hip hop beats. Again, DJ Premier knows what he's doing. So track 7 on the album is One Love, which is produced by Q-Tip, of course, of Tribe Called Quest. This is a letter to a friend of his in jail. Again, very personal, writing to a friend. Again, a little bit more emotional and something that he probably wouldn't reveal to anybody else except for this person. My favorite little couple verses, this is probably my favorite verse off of this. Sometimes I sit back with a Buddha sack, minds in another world, thinking how we can exist through the facts. That's very deep, thinking how we can exist through the facts. Thinking how, basically, I think of that as, how can we exist with everything that we know? When it's hard to exist knowing how the world works and how you see it. So again, I like it. Very personal. Not one of my favorites. A little bit slower. Track 8, One Time for Your Mind. This is also produced by Large Professor. It's slowed down a little bit too much for me. I don't like the pacing. If you like it, that's cool. I totally get it. Still, like I said, everything's top notch on here. It's like one time for your mind, one time. It's just a little bit too slow for me, but like if I'm gonna go over my favorite lyric on here, when I'm chilling, I grab the Buddha, get my crew to buy the beers and watch a flick and root for the villain. I love that. Because I'm always want to do that. I watch movies, I root for the villain. Again, I like the little film reference, even though it is one of the weaker tracks on the album, I believe. Track 9 is Represent, also DJ Premier. DJ Premier is just throughout this. I think DJ Premier and Nas helped each other with this album. Everybody involved in it is fantastic. It picks the pace back up from the last 2 tracks. It's One Love and One Time for Your Mind are a little bit slower paced and kind of slow back. And I kind of don't like that. I wish we'd have kept the pace going. And nothing against them. It's a more in-your-face kind of feel. Moet drinking marijuana, smoke a street dweller. Rolling up blessed, because when I dress, it's never nothing less than Guess. Of course, the 90s reference, I love the Guess. Weed is a prominent feeling throughout the album. This is more, it's a very, I wish I could play music. It's really hard to do this stuff without playing music. But I'm doing my best. This is what I can do. If anybody knows how to get around that stuff cleanly, you let me know. But yeah, Represent is, and when I hear this song, I just think about, he's sitting in the park, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, you got the L getting passed around, beer drinking, shooting it, and this is just Nas going off. It Ain't Hard to Tell is, just to give you some background on this, was produced by Large Professor. The lyrical content on this track is so high level. Now it's weird because when I first listened to this album, like as I mentioned, this is the first CD I listened to all the way through. Never skipped a track, never even thought about skipping a track. I didn't realize I didn't do it until the end. I got to the end and I listened to this song like 4 times. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I knew this was something special. And then years later, you know, there was a book written about it. There's even a video on YouTube where a Harvard professor is talking with Nas and he's breaking down the lyrics. It is absolutely insane to think that. And it is that. There's so much deep stuff. So I'm going to try to go off the top with this one. I was trying to save this for last. And just like I said, much like a movie, the ending is important. I've seen very good movies that they don't know how to stick the landing. This one sticks the landing and does it perfectly. I'm going to try my best, guys, to go off the top of my head with this. I hope I don't embarrass myself. It ain't hard to tell. I excel, then prevail. My mic is contact that I attract clientele. My mic check is life or death, breathing a sniper's breath. You have to be relaxed as you're a sniper. You follow me? That's pretty deep. I exhale the deep like a sniper's breath. I exhale the yellow smoke of Buddha through righteous steps, deep like The Shining. At 12 or 13, I'd never seen The Shining. It was always out there as one of those movies that like you want to see. And The Shining, much like this album, is deep. It's simplistic on its surface, it's concise, but there are a lot of themes and elements going on within it. Deep like The Shining, sparkle like a diamond. Sneaking Uzi on the island in my army jacket lining. Hit the earth like a comet invasion. Nas is like the Afrocentric Asian. Half man, half amazing. Cause in my physical, I can't express through song. Delete stress like Motrin, then extend strong. I drink Moet with Medusa, give her shotguns in hell. From the spliff that I lift and inhale, it ain't hard to tell. Now throughout this track, I'm telling you not to leave my track, there's some nice little harmony, da 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 da, and a nice hip hop beat, nice little jazz beat there as well. So you have that in between, so I'm just gonna go into the next one before I lose my track of mine. The Buddha monk in your trunk, turn the bass up. Nas stories by Aesop. Place your loot up, parties I shoot up. Nas I analyze, drop a jewel. Inhale from the L, school of fool. You're feeling like Braille. You're feeling like Braille. It ain't hard to tell. I kick a skill like Shaquille holds the pill. This is early Shaq. Anybody know Shaq? He was just, when he was in his early career with the Orlando Magic, he was just very smooth and elegant. Held the ball just like in one hand. I kick a skill like Shaquille holds a pill. Vocabulary spills, I'm ill. Plus Matic. I freak beats slamming like Iron Sheik. Slamming like Iron Sheik. Wrestling reference. Jam like a tech with correct techniques. So analyze me, surprise me. But can't magnetize me. Scanning while you're planning ways to sabotage me. I leave them I'm scanning while you're planning ways to sabotage me. I leave them froze like Heron in your nose. Nas and Rockwell, it ain't hard to tell. Then you have the chorus, And then first part of the third verse I'm sketchy on, so I'm just gonna go toward the end just so I don't embarrass myself too much. Wisdom be leaking out my grapefruit trunk. I dominate break loops, giving mics minstrel cycles, streets disciple. I rock beats that's mega trifle. I got moves and skills like Villanova. I messed that part up. Like Villanova. I messed that part up. I acknowledge that. You're still a soldier. I'm like Sly Stone and Cobra. Another movie reference. I'm like Sly Stone and Cobra. Packing like a Rasta in the weed spot. I gotta look real quick. Vocals will squeeze these Glocks. MCs eavesdrop though they need not to sneak. My poetry's deep, I never fail. Nas's rap should be locked in a cell. It ain't hard to tell. I mean, I messed up there a little bit, and I didn't know the beginning part of the third verse, but that was all just memory, pretty much. I listened to a song here and there, but that was pretty much just, old time memory. For those of you who watched this whole review, I apologize I'm not able to play music. I wish I could, desperately, but I hope my verses I picked were good. But yeah, it's high art. I mean, this is one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. Objectively, in my opinion, it's the best, but that's just my opinion, of course. It's just so lyrically deep, and it's taking you on this journey. It's just, like I said, it's an audible movie. A good album, you should be able to put on your headphones, close your eyes, and be taken away and be able to visualize everything that you're hearing. That's good music regardless of genre. But guys, thank you so much if you did hang with me through this, and thank you, Nas, for putting out this album. It was my first introduction really into poetry and how music could be very deep and personal. Like when I talked about the movie City of God, I'm not from this world like that he's talking about, that he's from. I'm not of it. I'm never going to be of it. I have no desire to, but he took me there and he gave me an idea into what that world is like, and that's why I love that movie City of God. It's a place I'm never going to be, I'm never going to see, but through his words and his lyrics, and of course some great production on there, I was taken away. Still one of my favorite albums of all time, always will be. One of my favorite tracks, of course, ain't hard to tell. If I was to make a list of my 20 favorite tracks now or when I'm 60, it's going to be on there. It'll probably be the only hip-hop track on there. One of the best hip-hop albums of all time. If you haven't listened to it, I'll link the full album below, and also that little Harvard interview with Nas on It Ain't Hard to Tell. If you haven't heard this album, please, whether you listen to hip-hop or not, this is one you absolutely have to digest. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate your time. I will be back next Tuesday with another album review. Guys, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Y'all take care, be well, and have a great day.